Now, I usually do these press conference updates from the AXA training centre, but of course, the festive fixture schedule is extremely busy, and so it's not always easy to fit the press conferences in. And for that reason, Arne Slot held his pre-West Ham press conference after the game against Leicester last night. And usually when that is the case, because it's so soon after the last game, there's not always that many interesting lines in it, and it's difficult to throw it ahead to the next game. But actually, a few really interesting bits came up in this one, so I did think it was worth jumping on and doing a review, and that embargo breaks now as soon as this video is published. So yeah, I'm going to give you all the updates and the latest news from this one. So I'll start as I usually do with the team news, and as I say, a few bits on this one. So of course, starting point is that no Dominik Szoboszlai for this trip to West Ham. Unfortunately, he came on against Leicester, didn't he, and received a yellow card, his fifth of the season so far, which means he has to serve a suspension. And obviously, Arne Slot quite disappointed about that, and he mentioned it in his press conference and said that, look, he was outstanding against Tottenham, and the plan was that he could have a rest against Leicester, only come on as a sub, and then be outstanding against West Ham. But unfortunately gets a really soft yellow card, I have to say. I thought he was unfortunate to get that one, really. Not very much in that tackle at all, just to kind of coming together shoulder to shoulder. But Arne Slot said, look, someone else is going to have to come in against West Ham now, and they are going to have to be outstanding, because that was the plan. And I do think with Szoboszlai, you know, when you go away from home and you're on a big pitch like West Ham's is, having someone like him who can cover the ground is really, really helpful. So I do think he'll be a big miss for this one. But of course, Liverpool don't have the luxury of selecting him, and therefore, as Slot says, they're going to have to pick someone else. Now, in terms of other team news bits, obviously Diogo Jota is back to fitness now, and he did come on against Leicester as a substitute, and he was asked, look, how close is he to now starting games? And Slot said, we are still kind of managing his fitness through things. He couldn't, because of the nature of his rib injury, he couldn't do very much when he was injured, and therefore you lose a little bit more kind of fitness. Obviously, with some of those kind of contact injuries, like maybe if you do your shoulder or whatever, you can do quite a lot of running and training whilst that's going on, even if you can't do full contact training. But with Jota, it doesn't sound like he was able to do that, so he lost a little bit of conditioning while he's been out, so that's why we haven't seen him from the start yet. And Slot said, look, it's an intense league as well. It's not easy to come straight back in when you've had a couple of months out. But he did say that he was quite close to starting the Leicester game. Obviously, the fact that there's so much competition for places and other players who were a bit fitter meant that he didn't. But that, to me, suggests that Jota is very, very close, and therefore, could we see him in from the start against West Ham? I would expect it, really, to be honest. I think Núñez not playing the best against Leicester, and I think Jota, if he was close to starting the Leicester game, then surely he's going to be ready to face West Ham. So looking like we could see him in from the start there. And just to wrap up the team news as well, a couple of updates on Ibrahima, KONATE and Conor Bradley. Of course, they're still both out with knee and hamstring injuries respectively, but some good news on that front from Arne Slot. He was asked about, how close are they getting? Are they getting close to maybe for the Manchester United game that is coming up? And he said, he clarified straight away. He said, I can say that they're out for the West Ham game. They definitely won't be part of that. But then, of course, Liverpool do have like a week break where they can work on the players, get them a little bit closer. And he said that maybe there's going to be a chance for them both after that. He said they haven't trained with the group yet, obviously, which is what we expected. But that they're coming closer to that in the upcoming days. And therefore, if they do train for that, then maybe we could even see both back for Manchester United, which I think would be a huge boost. Obviously, they're the only two players who aren't fit at the moment. KONATE, a guaranteed starter, and Conor Bradley so helpful in terms of giving Trent a rest as well. So it will be great to get them back. And it does sound like, yes, we won't see them for West Ham, but can we get them back for that Manchester United game? As I say, that would be a huge boost. Now, moving on from team news, I have to talk about the inevitable contract question that got asked. And obviously, they find different ways into these questions. And the way in this time around was the fact that we're coming up to the start of January. That's the point at which Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold can speak to non-English clubs about making a move there in the summer. And of course, Slot bats it off, as he always did. I've got the quote here. He said, "It would be a surprise if I was the one to announce that one of them had extended." And then he added that, look, maybe things change for you guys on January the 1st and you think that's significant, but all three players are in constant talks with the club, so we'll see where that takes us. So not much of an update from the manager as we've come to expect in these press conferences, but he did seem incredibly relaxed about it. And we are hearing a few noises, aren't we, that maybe these things are edging closer now. We haven't heard anything from Mo Salah for a while about what's going on, so maybe we're getting there, and he did seem positive on it, so hopefully get a positive update. But as the manager says, it's probably not going to come from him. It's going to be announced on the club's official website, isn't it? Now, a couple more things to kind of wrap things up. He was asked about the fact that Liverpool have now got this 7-point lead at the top of the Premier League, a humongous lead, really, more than anybody could have expected. And did that add any pressure? Does that put pressure on you to keep that lead? Does it make you worry that you're going to collapse, that other teams are going to catch you up? And thought, again, I really liked Arne Slot's answer in this, in that he said, look, you're sitting in front of the Liverpool manager, so there is always pressure at this club. Last season, halfway through the season, Liverpool were also in the number one spot, so it's not strange for a club like us to be top of the league. And so, again, I love that answer, because I think it says a lot about how good Arne Slot has been at sort of assuming this role and taking on the pressure of being at Liverpool. It doesn't seem to faze him at all. And he thinks that, Liverpool being top should be absolutely normal, as it has historically been, and that this is the sort of club he's joined, and therefore he wants to take on that pressure. He wants to be top, and it's much better being just top, but being top with a 7-point lead, it's a pretty good place to be, isn't it? So really liked Arne Slot's answer around that. And just one more question that I thought was an interesting one. He was asked about Virgil van Dijk and how important he is. Of course, it's 7 years since he signed for Liverpool today. Big anniversary for him. And Arne Slot was asked, how good has he been for you? How impressed have you been? You've only been here for a short part of his Liverpool career, but what impact has he had on you? And he spoke about, of course, how good he has been for Liverpool down the years, getting close to winning the Ballon d'Or at one point, but also said, in terms of his experience working with Van Dijk, that he's the vocal leader of this team. Every time we start an exercise, he's on top of his teammates and leads by example. So clearly, that big character in the dressing room, really important around the training ground, in terms of cajoling the players, getting more out of them, setting the standards as well over the last few years. So that just shows you that Virgil van Dijk, it's not just about those performances that we see week in, week out, where he's world class, arguably the best defender in the world. It's everything else that he brings in terms of leadership, being a captain, and on the training ground, what he's getting out of his teammates and his colleagues. So clearly, Arne Slot's so full of praise for him there. And yeah, not really surprised, is it, for a player who's been this good for this long, that he is someone who sets the standards on the training ground. So anyway, going to wrap it up there. That's the pre-West Ham press conference. Obviously, looking forward to this one to keep Liverpool on that winning run, hopefully. And of course, how are you guys feeling about this one? Do let me know. Obviously, Liverpool have got that really good cushion at the top of the league, but maybe this game against West Ham a little bit tougher than it would have been a few weeks ago. They're now on a 4-match unbeaten run, so maybe starting to find a little bit of form. Do let me know in the comments what you guys think about this test that's coming up. And as ever, I'm going to ask, can you like and subscribe? Always massively appreciate that. And of course, I will see you after the West Ham game for my post-match review, so I'll see you then.